Welcome to the DMF. I'm Justin Yance. This is part two.
All right.
Um, so how did you get involved with podcasting?
So that was a friend of mine. His name's Ben Bateman. He hosted on YouTube a show called Action Movie Anatomy. It was on Popcorn Talk Network, and I was a fan of the show. And one day he was like, "Oh, by the way, I'm gonna be hosting something over on a platform called Anchor," and I was like, okay. He's like, if you want to follow me over there, go ahead. So I downloaded it, and it was basically a way to do what he was promoting, listen to podcasts, but it was also a way to start your own podcast.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, you know what? That's pretty cool. I like doing the YouTube thing, but I'm kind of lazy. I don't like vlogging and editing and all that stuff. Maybe this will
Mhm.
be easier. I can just record my voice, talk about what I love, and put it out there. And at that time, it was like Snapchat, but with audio. So it was only available for 24 hours, and then everything would drop off. So there's a lot of stuff that I talked about that you can't listen to anymore. And then eventually it evolved and you could create your own podcast. So I always credit Ben Bateman because he's out in LA. He does red carpets, and he's an interviewer, and so I love what he did, and so he inspired me. So I always give credit to Ben Bateman. If it wasn't for him and Anchor, I don't know that I'd have this microphone, this pair of Joe Rogan headsets. So
What was it about podcasting that really spoke to you?
besides the lazy factor, it was just a lot
Yeah.
easier to just put it out there than to record yourself. It was. I think I realized that it was becoming very, very, very popular. This is 2016, 17, somewhere around
Mhm.
there. So obviously Rogan, I love Joe Rogan. I love listening to his stuff, and then smaller podcasts. Um, yeah, it was just all right. I want to get in there, and going back to the acting thing, it's even though I don't want to do the acting, I still like to perform. So after I graduated high school, there was a big gap of time where I did magic, and not like the
Mm.
card game, but like magic, like
Yeah.
making stuff disappear. And so I got really involved in that. And looking back, that's a performing art. So it's always I love doing any kind of performing arts. So this is now my performing art. It's radio, it's podcasting, it's putting your self in front of a microphone and expressing yourself. And so I think it's just another form of acting in a way.
Mm.
So
Agreed. Talk a little bit about you just mentioned magic. Like what about magic what is that? What spoke to you about that?
that is all that traces back to Chris Angel, unfortunately, who's really not highly regarded in the magic community. Um, Literally last night I watched the great film The Incredible Burt Wonderstone with Steve Carell and Jim Carrey, where Jim Carrey is parodying Chris Angel. Um, it's not Mind Freak, it's Brain Rapist. It's so funny. I totally forgot about how funny that movie is. But yeah, but it all goes back to Chris Angel, unfortunately. But yeah, I don't know. Again, it's a performing art. So I got there was at that time there was a theater magic shop in St. Augustine called Theater Magic. And
Mm.
so I applied to work there. It was basically a glorified sales pitch. You would bring people off the street into the theater, do a 20-minute show, and then afterwards you would say, now, if you liked what you saw in the show, come on over to the gift shop and you can buy everything you just saw. So it was like it was a glorified sales pitch, but it was a great way to learn audience management. For that particular, obviously acting is totally different. You're not acknowledging the audience typically. Um, but when you're a magician, it's a whole new world of, all right, now I got to make sure everybody in this audience, is on board. There's no hecklers, the people that want to, oh, I see the wire, or whatever. Uh, so it's a whole new way to figure out how to manage the audience. So that was a great learning skill, and I just love doing it. I still do it to this day. It's a fun hobby, but I don't do it professional anymore. But yeah, it was maybe
So
three,
were
4 years I did that.
Were you sawing a woman in half? Did you do stuff like that?
No, 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 no. It wasn't big stage illusions. It was card tricks, coin
Tricks, yeah.
tricks,
Yeah.
mentalism, reading minds, stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you so like reading minds, like was that something that
No,
stuck
I
with
can't do it
you
right
or
now. No, I
no?
can't.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not.
Okay. All right, cool.
I'm not reading your mind. However, I do have like, do you want to see something?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Here, I'll show you something because literally I've been getting back into it. So I'm gonna try this out here. If I fail, cut this out.
Okay.
All right. Hold on. I'm gonna try to make sure I can talk and keep this in focus here. All right, so
Got a dollar.
we got a $1 bill. Now,
Wonder.
if you were here,
Yeah.
I would hand this to you and I would say, check this out.
Okay.
Make sure it's a legit $1 bill.
Okay.
And I would tell you this is actually a counterfeit bill. And you'd go, it's a counterfeit bill. I'd say, yeah, here, hold it, check it out. Make
Yeah.
sure it seems real, but it's really not real. And you'd go, okay. And then you'd hand it back to me. And I'd say, all right,
Okay.
so here we go. This is why it's a counterfeit bill. Because if you fold it, right, fold it up in just the right way, you can actually, if you get it just right.
Oh wow. Wow. That's amazing. You just turned that into $100 bill.
Right there. And so that's the kind of stuff
Wow.
I like to do.
So you just go to the bank and be like, here, give me that. Can I just
Yeah.
have a dollar?
Yeah, give me a
Oh, here
dollar.
you are. I just paid for everything. No, that's awesome. That's really cool. I'm not even gonna ask you how you did it, but that's really
It's sleight of
cool.
hand. It's stuff that I like to
No, I understand what it is, but that's great.
it's
He
like a
just
piano player, it's like you don't want to ever stop knowing how to play the piano. And I always like
yeah.
to make sure that my hands are I don't know what the word is, but they're always at the ready to do something sleight of handy.
So taking it back to the Terminator
Yes.
stuff, what is it about those films that just speak to you? That you wanted to do podcasts about it and you wanted to talk about it?
Well, specifically why I wanted to do a podcast was because I think at that point I couldn't find a podcast that was dedicated to it,
Mm.
and I had determined because this is who I am. I think I sat down one day and I was like, "What is my favorite movie of all time?" And I like argued with myself. I was like, "I think it is either." I think at that point I said T2. Now it's the Terminator. It's always back and forth, but I was like, "Yeah, Terminator." I think it's I just love what it stands for. I love the films themselves. I love the messages of the film. No fate. You make your fate. Nothing is predetermined. The other films kind of go back on that, but whatever. And so I was like, okay, cool. So there's got to be a podcast where someone's kind of, geeking out about this, getting real sweaty. And there wasn't. And I was like, what? So I kind of figured, okay, I'll fix that. And then the idea to reach out to people from the films that just kind of naturally came after I was 3, 4, 5 episodes in, and I was like, this is I don't think I can sustain this if it's just me talking about my theories or
Yeah.
whatever. And to get a bigger audience, you want to get people from the films because those are going to bring in more people. And so that was just a natural thing to be like, all right, well, and my first guest was Brett Azar, who unfortunately was in Terminator Genesis as Arnold's double for the recreated 1984 scene.
Yeah.
And he also went into Dark Fate for the flashback where he kills
Yeah.
John Connor. But I say unfortunately because it's the films. He's cool. Brett Azar is very cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then from that point on, I've talked to Jesus, William Wisher, the co-writer of T2. I've talked to Jeanette Goldstein. She's a friend of the podcast, and John Bruno and Ed Marsh. These are all Cameron friends and collaborators. So,
Yeah.
and usually the way it works, maybe similar to how you do your podcasting, you would understand this. One person has a good experience, and then either they suggest somebody or you ask, hey, can you get me in touch with somebody? And because they had a good experience, they'll be like, yeah, of
Yeah.
course. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.